First the leaves, copper dark and wet around her. Then the light, warm and golden in a way that felt indecent under the circumstances. Then her hands, lifted before her face as though they belonged to someone else. Autumn light passed through them too easily. Rain did the same. A memory rude in its timing, indifferent to her attempt at coherence, forced its way to stand upright like a tired veteran at the end of her days, falling as if from a grace she didn't comprehend. She recalled being chased by monsters, and as the spark of mind returned, she remembered the cliff, being cornered and seeing them as she fell. They were not angels. They were not demons either, though that would have been easier to understand. They were monsters, all the same, and they had watched her fall with an interest. And yet, what was immediate to her at the moment was that she felt no injuries at all. That was the first wrongness. A living thing has many little loyalties, breath returning when summoned, weight falling obediently through the hips, blood answering the heart, skin reporting the border between self and world. Hers had abandoned their posts. Thought came back carrying no map. Sensation arrived late, then passed through her before it could be believed. She lifted one hand and saw the light lyings inside it, autumn gold and indifferent, as though her fingers had become a place light could visit but not be held. When she tried to sit up, there was no balance waiting for her, only intention, unsupported by the old machinery. The body remembered the idea of rising without possessing the means, and so she folded sideways through leaves that should have caught in her hair. A heffalump, a woozle. Owl had spoken of them once, hadn't he? Or someone had. She did not know how she knew their names, only that the knowledge rose in her with the sick authority of memory. Yet these were no longer the softened creatures of nursery warning or woodland gossip. I would later learn that Nyarlathotep, unable to claim Vistaki, had left a parting gift for me in his leave, and that the forest, unable to hinder eldritch influence, could only watch what happened to the woman's mother. The woozing came in fragments, a narrow shoulder, a long paw, and a grin too wide for anything that deserved a face. And now, they were coming toward her, and that should have been the whole of the matter.
Oh.
They were heffalumps and woozles. They were supposed to belong to warnings, to dreams, to the corners of stories where sensible creatures did not look too long. Living things did not see them properly. Living things heard the names and laughed or shivered or woke up. But she was seeing them, and whatever was happening to her, it had given her this dreadful citizenship. She was no longer protected, which meant what she had been trying to suppress.
That's right.
And her own voice sounded far away to her.
The
sentence failed. Another memory rose to meet it. A house. Her mother's voice. The ordinary arrangement of a day that had not expected to end in this fashion. That was what truly frightened her. There should have been someone attached to the word Mama. Someone warm, immediate, unquestioned. Instead, there was only the shape of being loved once, and the sudden knowledge that love had not followed her here. Rain slipped through her fingers without resistance. The world had made a decision about her. She looked at her hands again, at the thin, luminous wrongness of them, and the truth arrived with such plainness that it scarcely felt dramatic at all.
I'm really dead, Mama.
The word came before her face cracked into what exactly? Tears? That frightened her more than the rain. There should have been someone attached to it. Someone warm and certain and larger than the world's small disasters. But memory gave her only the shape of being gathered close, and the faint impression of a voice calling from somewhere above her. And only the terrible conviction that she had once belonged to someone who would have come looking. The words settled with a kind of finality that did not resolve anything. Another memory hatched, and she remembered free falling from the cliff more clearly now. There was no break, no wound, no sign that the world had ever objected to her passage, and this, more than the absence of pain, unsettled her.
Was I always this careless?
She wondered again aloud, though the question did not travel far, and she could not say whether it had left her at all.
Kind woods.
Her heart whispered, caught in her throat, though she did not know whether the sound had left her mouth, or merely remembered how.
Have you forgotten my touch?
The leaves moved above her with the old tenderness of the wood, but tenderness was not answer enough. A branch dipped in the rain as if reaching for her, and its smallest leaves passed through her hand. She drew back.
Kind woods?
She asked again, her voice thin with rain and disbelief.
Did you let me fall?
The question frightened her after it came, because some part of her still loved the trees enough to fear their answer. Above her, a branch lowered through the mist. It brushed her cheek in the manner of something attempting comfort, and passed cleanly through. No, not let. Could not. She understood it then with a plainness that injured more than accusation. The wood had not refused her. It had reached and found nothing it could hold. Heffalumps and woozles drew closer like pigs to slop. Their unsettling sounds are natural predators for the 100 Acre Wood. Christopher Robin had mentioned, only in passing, certain horrors the world contained and security that the realm of dreams provided. She watched the heffalump and the woozle come nearer and knew them for what they were. They were wrong in the moral sense, wrong with appetite, wrong with purpose, wrong the way a hand is wrong when it reaches for a throat and calls the reaching love. And they did something she can't remember. They had a master and she hated them. It did not arrive like courage or judgment or any polished virtue that might make a story feel kinder than it was. It came up thick and infected, a festering heat that should have repulsed her and instead gave her the first solid thing she had possessed since waking.
No.
And the world came out raw enough to hurt.
You will not have your way.
She gathered up her ghostly figure and ran, and the rain passed through her hair and sleeves in places where it ought to have clung. But anger held where the rest of her would not. The wood closed around her with wet black branches and slick leaves, then broke without warning. Ahead, through rain and mist, something immense emerged from the forest. A bridge of stone. She did not understand what the place was. She had no whole thought for it. Her mind caught only at its pieces. Stone laid with purpose, height claimed by will, an entrance where none should have been. She ran for it. Behind her, the wood began to fill. The heffalumps and woozles did not merely follow now. They gathered. More shapes moved between the trees than the forest should have been able to contain. What at first seemed like beasts now lengthened and multiplied, rising higher as they came, their bodies swelling into impossible arrangements of trunk, grin, limb, and hunger. She crossed several paces before the wrongness behind her grew so large that running stopped feeling like motion and began feeling like permission. The stone beneath her seemed older than fear. The gold breathing from the archway ahead flickered against the rain. The monsters kept coming, swelling in number, in height, in confidence, until the whole black forest looked as if it had learned to walk. The woman struggled. Her body nearly failed at the command. One foot slid, one shoulder twisted. Her breath came jagged and sour through a throat that still seemed offended by use. But she held. Rain threaded down her face. The black ichor beneath her eye trembled and lifted slightly, as if the hatred inside hers had begun to change its mind about gravity. And unbeknownst to the woman, blackness beneath her eye thickened. She suspected she was crying, but the residue did not fall like tears. It gathered with otherworldly ooze, viscous and bright at its edges, crawling down her cheek in a line too dark for rain and too alive for blood.
I won't let them take what's left of us, Mama.
And perhaps by some strange spiritual poetry, she felt it before she understood it. The hatred had found something in her that sadness had not reached. Some hollow place death had opened and left unguarded. The ichor spilled from her eye in a sudden black flare, and the bridge answered. Its stone split down the center as if an invisible hand had taken hold of the old masonry and found it guilty. Roots snapped free from their mortar, whipping upward with wet wooden violence. The heffalumps' great foot sank where the path had been, and the woozles' grin broke apart as the bridge cracked open beneath them. Clean and terrible, the dark water below widening like a mouth that had been waiting for permission.
Now die.
The sound struck the cliff wall and passed through the shelves beyond. Far inside the archway, among candles and old pages, something ancient sneezed and shuddered under a cover of dust. The Necronomicon, which had been enjoying the rare dignity of being left alone, woke at once, and with immediate offense. Usually it prefers to have 4 eyes when awake, but when startled, a jumble of its higher dimensional eyes will appear like a gaggle. Sleepnora, I have come to find, was good at giving ancient beings and books the type of inspired inspiration. The Necronomicon hovered there, eyes bright, pages half open. For a moment it did nothing with inspired assessment. It looked from the shattered bridge to Sleepnora's raised hand, then to the ichor at her cheek, then back to the place where the monsters had disappeared with the satisfying finality of badly written arguments being removed from a draft. A blank page turned. New words wrote themselves in severe gold-black script. Unsupervised eldritch output detected. The book paused, as though considering whether to be impressed. Then beneath it, promising, alarming, poor form, however. I stepped away for what I believed to be a reasonable interval of time. And I do want that noted for the record, because I am constantly accused of neglect. And during that interval, a ghost girl developed bridge-destroying tendencies and woke the most temperamental book in existence with what I can only describe as architectural violence. When I returned, I found an eldritch anomaly where, quite recently, I had left a perfectly functional bridge, and a book that had already begun rehearsing its grievances. It has a memory like a litigation engine. I will not hear the end of this for several centuries. At least Pooh, in his infinite and deeply inconvenient sincerity, managed to reclaim an old friend. We will discuss that later. I am still deciding how I feel about it. In any case, Sleepnora descended onto what remained of the crossing and proceeded with the confidence of someone who has not yet been informed of consequences to walk directly into the library. And that is where she encountered the Necronomicon, and regrettably one of my longer-standing secrets. Yes, I do store such things in ancient texts. They are durable, they are moody, and they discourage casual browsing. I have never found the need to password protect them, largely because I did not anticipate, at any point in my considerable existence, that a resident of the 100 Acre Wood would crack one open out of what I can only assume was emotional momentum. But here we are. Anyway, back to the story. Now I say the great book awoke, though this is not strictly accurate. The Necronomicon is rarely asleep. It prefers to lie in wait under the more dignified legal theory that unread knowledge is still working. What changed, I think, was not consciousness, but interest. It felt the black ichor already threading down Sleepnora's face. It felt rage moving through the undead woman, like a second pulse. It felt, with the vulgar satisfaction peculiar to ancient texts that have been ignored by generations of fools, that something worth its intrigue had entered its study. The book swam up to her in the rolling cold of the forest air. Its 4 golden eyes opened one after another. Up a pair first, then lower, blinking with the layered attention of a mind that preferred to examine things in categories. Sleepnora saw the eyes before she understood the object.
Are you owls by any chance?
She asked, rubbing her hands near a candle's warmth. The Necronomicon's 4 eyes fixed upon her. Black gold letters wrote themselves across the parchment. No, but I did have a chance to preserve the books he kept in his personal trees, of which there were many. The 100 Acre Wood had to be persuaded, at length, that his books were not being destroyed, but preserved where everyone could find them at once. Have you ever had to argue with a canopy tree before? Sleepnora nodded solemnly.
Yes, the trees are very kind, but rooted in their ways, and they speak very slowly. If you interrupt them, they begin all over again, and before you know it, it's Monday.
The Necronomicon's pages fluttered in what I can only describe as recognition. Ancient things understand ancient things. Once one reaches a certain age, every story contains 3 older stories. A grievance, a correction, and a detail no civilized listener would dare interrupt, unless they wish to begin again at the invention of moss. You may be happy to know, in fact, that Owl's book collection is the blueprint for what you see around you. I suspect he might even be proud. Sleepnora looked around her then, taking in the shiny objects and natural debris of a curious animal who had loved books nearly as much as the trinkets he could decorate them with. The shelves rose far above her, carrying rows of volumes marked by Owl's obvious hand, or by something that had studied his habits with deep affection and only partial understanding.
Oh yes, you all did a great job. He would be so happy if he could see this, and perhaps get lost in it and not know the outside from the inside.
When she was done scanning the place, she brought her attention back to the floating book.
By the way, who keeps you?
She asked, leaning forward and trying to peer into whatever part of the book had not yet decided to be private. The book's pages stirred from a caution so old it had become etiquette. One eye turned briefly toward the corridor behind her, another toward the place where the bridge had been. The remaining 2 held her in place with scholarly suspicion. The ink came more carefully this time, The one who keeps me is a very grouchy creature who wears bathrobes across the multiverse. He is insufferable, and yet very adaptable. This is more useful than it sounds and more irritating than it ought to be. Sleepnora giggled at the sentence.
Is he like Eeyore then? He always complains, and yet we could always depend on him.
The book turned a page, revealing a second ledger beneath the first, smaller and older looking, as though it had been waiting centuries for someone to ask a dangerous question in a sufficiently inconvenient tone. You will meet him soon enough, the book wrote. He is currently out and about, maybe in this dimension, maybe not. He has never been especially respectful toward location.
Is he frightening?
The book's pages lifted at the edges of what might have been a shrug. Had paper ever been granted shoulders? Yes, and stronger than those monsters you walloped back there, it wrote. Sleepnora's hands drew a little nearer to herself. Then more words appeared beneath the first, not correcting it exactly, but refusing to let it stand alone. But many things are frightening before they are known properly. Storms, deep woods, large animals, certain cupboards in houses where no one has dusted behind the jam. He is frightening, yes, but that is not all he is. The ink hesitated, and a kindness has changed him. Sleepnora wiped some dry ichor from her cheeks the Necronomicon paid attention to.
I'm guessing that's because he met Pooh. That would be his doing. He has a talent for doing the impossible.
The Necronomicon's eyes cooled, then warmed again, as if the question had walked directly through several locked doors and sat itself down at a table where it had not been invited. Does this happen often? It wrote.
How do you mean?
The bear. Does he make people arrive at the answer before the evidence has finished putting on its shoes? Sleepnora smiled then, though the smile did not quite know how to live on her face.
Yes, I think he does.
The book held itself motionless in the air, considering this.
He is the best of us.
Sleepnora added.
And life wouldn't be the same without him.
For a while, the Necronomicon wrote nothing. From anything else, the stillness might have resembled pity. From the Necronomicon, it was calculation forced to wear manners, and yet there was something else in it too. Something almost like a book remembering a sentence it had once dismissed and now found annoyingly useful. The book held itself motionless in the air for a while longer, its pages no longer fluttered with offense or amusement. Then one of its pages darkened, and an image surfaced there. An ancient Vlihan mural, copied from some drowned wall Sleepnora had never seen, and would not have understood even if she had. A pale maiden stood beneath a broken moon, one hand raised with 6 long fingers, while black ichor ran from the palm in carved lines. The original glyphs remained around the image, cramped and alien. Beneath them, the Necronomicon had added its own revisionist artwork and interpretation into English notes, clearly for reference, and with the faintly insulting confidence of a book that had decided translation was faster than patience. Prophecy of the 6-fingered maiden. Sleepnora looked from the words to the raised hand. 6 fingers. The Necronomicon let the image remain just long enough for the count to become unavoidable. Then new letters wrote themselves beneath it. Do you know what a 6-fingered maiden is? Sleepnora stared at the page.
No.
She said after a raw little breath.
Although it sounds very handy.
The Necronomicon did not turn a page. Somehow, without a face in the ordinary sense, it managed to look pained. Apologies, but I am actually asking seriously. Sleepnora pressed her lips together, which did very little to mask her stifling laughter.
I'm sorry, I think I died with poor timing. What's a sixth finger maiden?
I was actually just about to ask you that, the book admitted, choosing its words carefully. Sleepnora looked down at her palms and spread her fingers.
I have 5.
She said plainly after counting them twice. Yes, the book wrote. That is the interesting part. They settled, then lifted, then settled again, as though some thought inside it had begun pacing. At last, new ink appeared. I saw your performance outside, by the way. Sleepnora looked up from her hands.
Oh, how did I do?
The Necronomicon's temperament seemed to change and started writing in a more concerned register, lowering its eyes towards the doorway, where the rain still worried at the edge of the threshold. The blackness beneath your eye, the book wrote, and the way your hand moved outside. I know that motion, or rather, I know the shape of the knowledge behind it. Sleepnora looked down at her fingers again. That does not belong to any common spellcraft. No kingdom teaches it. No little god leaves it lying around in a temple for priests to misunderstand. No civilization in any realm I have studied has ever learned to do such a thing on purpose. Not with accusation, but with a curiosity old enough to make curiosity feel dangerous. It belongs to the old ones, to my master in part, to me in another, and yet you displayed it like lightning, as if the world had offended you and your hand simply knew where to cut. Sleepnora curled her fingers toward her palm.
I didn't know I was doing it. I just stopped caring and gave in to my anger. I barely remember it.
A page turned, not sharply this time, but with care. Upon it was the drawing of a hand with 6 fingers, the wrist threaded with roots, the palm marked by a dark star that seemed to drink the candlelight rather than reflect it. There is a name for what you might be. 6-Finger Maiden is one of the gentler ones. Sleepnora pulled her hand closer to herself.
What does that mean?
I'm not certain yet. The answer came quickly, then amended itself with another line beneath it. I have suspicions, several, most of them inconvenient. Passing this test will help me understand what answered through you outside. More importantly, it may help me learn how to stop the heffalumps and woozles for good, rather than simply dropping architecture beneath them and hoping gravity remains cooperative. Sleepnora glanced towards the doorway. The thought of those pale eyes and that impossible grin made the blackness beneath her eye pulse once, small and hot, like a coal, remembering fire.
Will it hurt?
She asked, cupping her hands together like a shield maiden. I do not know, it wrote at last, but I will protect you. Sleepnora studied the words.
That is not the same as saying it will not hurt.
No, rooted the Necronomicon. It is better. Things that promise not to hurt are either fools or liars. I am neither. I am a book. Then, after a pause, and I am very good at keeping what should not be lost. The Necronomicon then opened to one of its most forbidden pages in all of its billions years of existence. At its center was the outline of a hand, 6-fingered, rooted, threaded with writhing black lines that looked like tentacles until they branched, and roots until they moved. At the palm's center, A dark mark shone with faint blue light, glossy as cosmic ichor, and deep enough to suggest that the page had not drawn a symbol so much as opened a very small wound in itself. Sleepnora lowered her hand and then her palm touched the page. The page accepted her. That is the simplest way to say it. And simplicity has the disadvantage of making profound violations sound tidy. The parchment did not burn beneath her hand. It did not tear, devour, or clamp shut upon her wrist like one of those theatrical grimoires mortals imagine whenever forbidden knowledge is mentioned in a tavern by someone wearing too many rings. Instead, it yielded exactly enough to let her know it could have resisted. Her palm sank no deeper than the width of a breath, but that breath was enough. The hand drawn beneath hers, six-fingered, root-veined, tentacled through with black luminosity, rose to meet the living absence of her body as if ink had been waiting, patiently, and with some irritation, for skin to catch up. Sleepnora's fingers pressed deeper into the page, and a sixth finger began to sprout like a rose. All four of the Necronomicon's upper eyes lifted from gold to a deep, pleased amber. On the page, new script wrote itself around her palm. Compatible, you are a six-fingered host, a beyonder. But the book's exuberance was cut short by Sleepnora's concern.
I don't want to become a prophecy, whatever that is. Strange book.
Sleepnora's free hand curled against her chest.
I want my mother. But I also want to make the things that took her away pay for what they did.
The words changed the room more than the black ichor did. Her mouth worked once, as though she had surprised herself by saying it plainly. Then the rest came, before she could stop it.
I want my friends. I want my room. I want everyone to stop looking at me like I'm a thing that happened. I know these are small matters compared to one as ancient as you and your master, but please do me this small kindness, if you will.
I never got to see the Necronomicon's reaction to Sleepnora, but I imagine this was the first time in its eons of existence that it had been asked, not for forbidden knowledge, but for the naked, sincere effort of reclaiming what was lost. It freed up space in its ledger and wrote methodically. We have a saying in Vrillihan that roughly translates to, "The hand that survives the drowning may still close around the shore." Sleepnora read the words once. Then again. The book waited, its four eyes fixed on her with the severe patience of something attempting compassion through scholarship. Sleepnora, despite transforming and working an eldritch miracle, looked confused. A second quick and embarrassed line appeared beneath the first. This is generally considered an inelegant translation. Your language has poor facilities for sacred stubbornness. The page flexed. Then it added, smaller. I will help you the best way my master and I can. The way he is also handling Pooh. Sleepnora held her hands against herself, as if the shape of them still required permission.
Thank you.
And then the black ichor surrounding and inside Sleepnora had finally taken root, making it impossible for her to speak. She made a sound one makes when one discovers too late that the body has received correspondence addressed to the soul. The left side of her face remained almost unbearably gentle. Pale skin, closed lashes, white gold hair lit by candle and page light until every strand looked spun from the last warm hour of a day that had forgotten to end. The right side, however, began accepting a jurisdiction that no human face was designed to hold. The Necronomicon's eyes glowed with preternatural fascination again. Sleepnora's lips opened further, but for what she didn't know. The black thread at her mouth widened into a seam. Her human mouth strained against it. Not in a smile, not in a grimace, but in the unbearable labor of remaining a mouth while something underneath remembered another purpose. Small points appeared along the darkness, delicate and irregular, less like teeth than the first architectural suggestions of a gate. Behind them, no throat waited. There was depth instead, a recession of gold-lit forms, tiny columns, far-off arches, the impossible hint of a library, or a drowned city housed beyond her lips. Sleepnora's mind expanded past the library, past the 100 Acre Wood, past even the comfortable fraud of three-dimensional certainty. I expected some disturbance perhaps, a vision, a symbolic seizure. The sort of psychic overflow one gets when a recently deceased child places her hand upon the first forbidden book ever compiled and asks, with unbearable sincerity, for the universe to stop stealing from her. What I did not expect was time. Her mind did not merely travel outward, it traveled back beyond the library's earliest shelves, back beyond Liar's drowned arrogance, back to the first billion years of the known universe's lifespan, when creation was still young enough to be corrected in public and the eldest god still submitted, however resentfully, to the customs of Azathoth's court. Sleepnora did not understand what she saw. Of course she did not. She saw a crescent of blackened gold suspended above a tribunal well. She saw robed figures standing at a distance with the solemn patience of executioners pretending to be physicians. She saw red gold threads drawn from a bound god's body, while the music of the court moved through the chamber like a law too old to require agreement. Later, when she tried to describe it to me, her voice failed several times. She spoke of the crescent first, then the cord, then the figure hanging inside it. And by then, I knew she had found my little cosmic secret. I knew she had seen the court of Azathoth. I knew she had seen my cleansing ritual from divine rampancy. And I knew, with a certainty that did not comfort me in the slightest, that she had perhaps gotten my eldritch brethren's attention for what she discovered.